do it. It's go time.
Welcome to Go Time, your source for wide-ranging discussions from all around the Go community. Check us out on the web at gotime.fm. There you'll find lists of recommended and popular episodes, unpopular opinion clips, and a request form, so you can let us know what you want to hear about on the pod. Big thanks to our partners at Fly.io. Over 3 million apps have launched on Fly. Deploy yours in 5 minutes. Learn how at Fly.io. Okay, here we go.
What's going on, Gophers? Adam here, talking to you with a new friend of mine. You know this person, Matt Boyle. He's been on the show several times. A big fan of Go Time. And Matt is also a trainer at Bite Size Go. And Matt has a course coming out called Mastering Go with GoLand. And that introduces our new sponsor, JetBrains, and their awesome IDE called GoLand. It is for Go developers, and Matt loves this editor. He's featuring it in this course. You can check it out at bitesizego.com/GoLand. But Matt, what are 5 things about GoLand that you just love, that you can't live without?
So I think the 5 features of GoLand that I could not live without, and I always miss when I'm not using it, is firstly the debugger. I think the debugging experience in IntelliJ products is perfect. Perfect. Quite a stretch, but I genuinely think it's for me at least, it's perfect. It's exactly what I want from a debugger. The second thing is having a terminal built in right there. I think most IDEs have this these days, but it's still like a really powerful and useful thing to have. The third one would be the ability to kind of connect the database from within my IDE. So this is really useful for building full stack apps, for debugging, and effectively I can do near enough everything I need to do to build an app from front end to back end without leaving GoLand, which is incredible. Fourth would be some of the refactoring tools. So we'll go through this in my course, but the ability to kind of extract code and turn it into a new function to automatically implement interfaces is something that's really useful. And then finally, once you get familiar with it, GoLand has this ability to sort of like fuzzy search and move between files, but using your keyboard. And I use that a lot because I use like very strict package and file naming for my stuff. I always know where things roughly live. And so being able to press Command-Shift-O on Mac and just start typing roughly the name of a file, I can just jump super quickly between different things, which is really, really useful for getting a lot of stuff done really quickly.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing, Matt. So Matt has this awesome course. It is free. Go to bitesizego.com/GoLand. This is a free course. It is called Mastering Go with GoLand, and you will get a complimentary 1-year GoLand subscription when you take the course. Sign up for free at bitesizego.com/GoLand or go to jb.gg/GoTime.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Go Time. Today, I have some special guests. I have some experts on the migratory patterns of the little-known Godwit bar-tailed bird. These gentlemen are going to wow us with their expertise and knowledge on, I'm kidding, we're just here to talk about some AI and observability stuff.
I've got ChatGPT. I think we could do that show.
we probably could. We just have to ask it a few questions and it'll answer us. Speaking of asking AI for questions, our show today is going to be about sort of using AI to ask questions of observability tooling and products and whatnot. Joining me is our very own Go Time co-host, Matt Ryer. Might say hi to the people.
Hello everybody. I was totally ready to do that migratory bird podcast episode. John Neal's just going to completely blag it, and I was going to do a big Scottish accent.
Yeah, you've been on a migration as well, right? We haven't heard from you in like a minute on this show. What's going on? Where have you been?
Well, I've been working hard at Grafana Labs. Too hard, I think. So yeah. Well, not too hard, but it's good stuff, and it's all very exciting. So it just sort of get wrapped up in the whole world, and yeah. But I need to find time for my friends, and that's the important thing to remember. Work-life balance is very important, of course.
Yeah, that's a lie, but we'll save that for unpopular opinions. Also joining us on today's show is one of the people Matt overworks with, Yasir Ekinci. I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Please correct me. Introduce yourself, Mr. Yasir.
I am Yasir, or Yas to be short. I mean, like it's a weird one because like in Turkish, it's a Turkish name, so it's like Yasir, but nobody could pronounce my name properly. I live in Belgium. Nobody could pronounce properly in Belgium. In England, it became like Yasir. So I was like, you know what? Let's keep it short and simple, and that's why I went like typically go by Yas. Like you said, I work with Matt. Unfortunately, at Grafana Labs, I've been there for just over 3 years now, and like really started in the AML team. And like I think like 3 years ago, together with Matt, we were just about like starting that team. Like the team existed for like 2 months before us.
Right.
And it's been quite a journey since then. Before that, like, you know, my background is really more in like econ stats. I've been working in this, I mean, I'm not going to call AI because I hate, unpopular opinion, I hate the word AI. Ooh. But we'll get to that later. I've been working like just over like 10 years in the space. My first job, like it was called data mining still, before AI was cool. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the things still carry over to today.
Yeah, they got away from data mining because it's a really dangerous job. A lot of people lost their lives. It's not very safe. And so
you go underground. It's like a real mining. It's like coal mining, except for data.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's dangerous down there. People, and I don't know why there's even data down there. Why are we digging down that deep for it? So I much prefer the modern approach where it's more about databases.
Well, good. Yeah, I do prefer that too. I think it's a bit healthier, right? Not as much gets into your lungs that way.
Yeah, my dad actually was a miner when he was younger. I don't mean like he was, and then he grew up, but he was actually in the mines down the pits. And he used to he'd come home and it looked like he was wearing eyeliner or guy liner because he'd have like soot in his eyes and stuff. Obviously, he's not showered it out properly, but yeah, it was sort of like looked like a 70s rock kind of rock glam star. So it's great.
So the whole time you just thought your dad was just a rock star coming home every day.
Yeah. I knew he worked with rock. I knew it's something to do with rock. And yeah, I think it was that. But then I learned later it's not doing that.
It's not, right. Yeah, hard stuff. Yeah, let's turn our attention to what we're here to talk about. So on a quick search, I've gotten to use, to a certain extent, some, we'll use the term AI, right? I know, yes, you don't like that, but to make the whole conversation, approachable, we'll call it AI.
So you can't just come on the podcast and say you can't include these words now. Yeah, that's too much of an ask for a first time guest.
Right, I know. Yeah, come back a few more times, and you get some privileges. All right. Yeah, but it seems like pretty much every vendor of observability tooling is sort of rushing, right, to add some sort of not just observability tooling. I think everybody's sort of rushing to add some sort of AI capability. Sometimes that blends well. Sometimes you like scratching your head wondering, are you trying too hard? But, at the very least, everybody is trying to use, right, Gen AI in some capacity to make the job of finding things, identifying things, working with things a bit easier. So I thought, hey, why don't we have people who actually work on these systems, right, come on the show and talk about what it takes to actually do this work. Basically, what I want to hear in particular is, what were you doing pre-AI, right? Pre-Gen AI that you now are doing differently because you're introducing Gen AI, right? From both the development perspective and from a sort of product perspective.
Yeah.
Well, on your first point, Johnny, and I think this is a really good one. Everyone is just doing AI for the sake of it. And one of the things that we said from the beginning was we aren't going to do that. And I remember, we were very sort of clear that we didn't want any AI for the sake of it. If we could solve a problem using more traditional data techniques, then we would. There's no reason to crowbar it in anywhere. And then once you've done that, you are then left looking at where does it fit really? Where can it actually make a significant difference? And that's the approach that Yas and the team take. Isn't it, Yas?
Yeah, if I had to add, in terms of the difference, it's kind of weird because in some sense it has made a difference in how we approach certain problems. And in some sense, it has made no difference. As in, like, we kind of know it's there. And I would say, especially now that kind of like you can see overall, like in the market, like the hype bubble is kind of like fading away. And now like people are actually seeing this for what it is. It's not like, oh, it's complete snake oil and it's useless. I'm not saying that. Like, it has some very valid, very useful use cases. But I think what we are seeing is like, it's like, and this is why I don't like the word AI, because like when you say AI, that comes with a connotation of like, oh, this thing actually thinks like a human, like, you know, like can do the same stuff that we do, has the same reasoning capability. And what we're seeing is actually, it's not that, right? It's like really good at this interacting with language. And because it's using language, it does have that, like, it gives you that illusion, right? Like it gives you that illusion that there is this thinking machine. But when you go down, it's actually like a very smart Google search that can do like quite nice autocomplete. But like actual reasoning, it's not in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So from a data handling perspective, like when, or rather, let's think about sort of the process of sort of from the ingestion, the collection to where you make that information available, right? You do whatever you need to do to process it and put in the right format in order to make it queryable, observe, you know, for me to look at a dashboard and see what I need to see from an operations standpoint. Like, does these new AI tools, do they play a role in the sort of ingestion and sort of handling of the data before it becomes available in the product in some way?
They kind of do. I would say they kind of play a role, but interestingly, not in the way that you expected, not in the systems themselves, but they kind of do play a role in helping people that are building and like, you know, building those pipelines to get the data into those systems and setting those systems up. Like one of the big things, and like even like as a developer myself, like, you know, one thing that I use day to day is like, you know, when I open VS Code, I've got like Copilot helping me out, right? That's an everyday thing. And like sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it gets wrong. But overall, even those suggestions give you like some inspiration on like, okay, like I'm trying to do this thing. It kind of takes the boilerplate away. It gets you where you want to go faster. Or if you're working with like a very new technology or like trying something new, like in a new language, like it can really be helpful there because it can, again, provide you that baseline. And then it's still up to you to kind of like correct it in a way. But it can help you in that sense. Otherwise, with dashboards, we have experimented with like generating dashboards from scratch, or even like things like, you know, being able to like edit a dashboard just using natural language. These things are possible. The generating dashboards specifically doesn't work that well out of the box, but that's less of a Gen AI problem, but it's more of a structure problem, as in inside of like if you take like some of the popular data sources like Prometheus, for example, you don't have a lot of structure. And by that, I mean, like, you know, you don't know what the relationship is between metric A and metric B. You don't know if they're coming from the same underlying system. You don't know how, like, you know, what labels all of these things are available. So it's really hard to generate a query from that. But if we can, like, you know, add this structure on top, then that does become like a bit easier for, like, you know, LLMs to apply this inside of a tool.
Yeah. And some of the other, I mean, there are different ways that we have like AI and different data techniques. One of the cool ones, which one of the first big features I remember, was the forecasting. And this is one of the nice things about Grafana, the actual dashboarding and all the sort of ecosystem around it is it's very pluggable. I mean, it's sort of the point of it is it's big tent, you can plug everything into it. And so the team designed this. You can essentially go in and say, right, you've got a metric, and maybe it's like CPU usage or whatever it is, aggregated of all your systems, and you've got seasonal kind of traffic. So maybe it's like a food app where lunchtime and dinner times are very busy, and the middle of the night not so much. So if you set alerts up there, if you were watching that CPU and you set up an alert to say if it drops down this low, you know, let us know because something's wrong. Or if it spikes up too high, let us know. We might need to do something. When you have that kind of seasonality, it's hard to find rules that fit that. And so there's sort of like technique to train, essentially, learn from that, learn the sequence, learn the expected pattern, and project that forward. And then you have a kind of confidence bound around it, confident bounds. And then, you just say, if it now falls out of what you expect. So that's like a really nice pragmatic one. And I love the way that the design of it was essentially, once you've set it up, it became just another thing that you can plug into the Grafana dashboards. So it meant that you can visualize it, you can alert on it, and all those great things.
We like actually expose those forecasts as Prometheus metrics as well. So you can just use the same, like, the same query language that you use before, like, when querying normal metrics, you can use that to query forecasts as well. The core thing is like, and this may be where kind of need to make that distinction between like the technology and like the hammer, which is like, machine learning techniques and the generative AI, from like what problems are we solving with it. I think the problems we're solving, the two big ones actually in observability haven't really changed that much, as in like the first one being around like, tell me when my service is not behaving as expected, right? And that's kind of like that alerting use case where typically people would set a static threshold, but that doesn't always work because of like the behavior of your system, the behavior of your users. So you might want to have something that's a bit more dynamic instead. And the other one, which is, well, once your system does not behave as expected, why, right? Like people are really, and this why question is like a really big one because it's not easy to solve. So that's like another interesting big area. The third new one, I would say, is a bit less directly related to those, but the third one is a bit more around like make things easier to use. So it's like, I'm looking at a very good example of that is like we got profiles with Pyroscope. And if you're looking at a profile, you see this like big, like, flame graph of like everything where the time is being spent in a particular call. And that's not really easy to understand, especially if you're coming into it new, or if you don't know exactly what this application is doing at this, like, you're a new developer joining the team. So that's kind of like where using generative AI and using the context of the internet that you can essentially call on, you can use that to explain what that profile is doing in human language. Right. And I think that's kind of like the third new one that has been enabled by Gen AI.
Yeah, and I love that one because, you're basically asking it to describe something that you can describe in another way. Like the flame graph is structured data that you can describe that. And so you're asking it to translate that essentially. So that, as a problem, it does a really good job of that. And if you've looked at flame graphs and just sort of wondered what's going on there, like what do you read from it? Just having an AI explain it to you, that is a phenomenal kind of, it works so well. So that's a kind of perfect place for it. The other one is incident summaries. So just by looking at the timeline of what's going on, it's able to generate a summary from that. And you have to tell it, you have to literally tell it, don't make things up, don't hallucinate stuff. Stick only to things that you can actually see. Like, so, but if you do tell it that, does do that.
Those use cases, like I keep thinking in my head, basically to me, there's like 3 layers, right? That, again, the broad term AI can be applied. Now, whether, you want to talk about, okay, make the user experience better for the customer using Gen AI, right? Or you want to use, some machine learning and things that, are not as sexy sounding, right? And sort of the system layer, right? And then you have the sort of developer experience itself, right? To me, there's like those 3 buckets: the developer who's writing the code, right, and is being assisted by the tooling, right? And then on the other end is the customer who's who wants to use natural language to ask questions of the data that you're providing. But I keep thinking that in the middle there, we don't talk about that enough. Meaning, like I'd love to imagine that these kinds of new tools coming up, right, or even existing ones that we didn't talk about that weren't as trendy, then, machine learning, predictive analytics, and a lot of these sort of, precursors to the whole Gen AI trend, right, are used or should be at least if they're being used, sort of talked about more, because at that level, right, this is where you can have sort of these tools help you, the operator of a product or a service, right, or a system, right, help you identify when the same things are going wrong, right? Anomaly detection, for example, right? It's not like, if you didn't write an alert, right, for a specific condition, can an intelligent system, right, or, quote unquote, intelligent system see basically that, oh, okay, for this particular kind of customer, this is the typical ingestion rate, right, for this kind of data. And then all of a sudden it detects that, and it can tell you, because you've prompted the system, right, if to use the term a bit broadly, you've prompted the system that says, hey, one of your jobs is to detect anomalies, and this is how you do that, right? If the typical average, throughput is this, and all of a sudden it's that, then you need to raise an alarm, right? You basically tell the system what you needed to be on the lookout for, right? And then you can express those however you'd like, through code, through some sort of language, or through if you want to use Gen AI to do that, you can do that too. But ultimately, you have this system whose entire job is to help make you, the operator's job, easier. Like, do we have, and again, not on the developer side, getting autocomplete, not on the customer side, getting, natural language to ask questions, but really on the system side. Like, what are we doing with that technology to operate services?
Yeah, so I'll just pick up one bit of that. So as I said earlier, like one of the things with the AI team inside Grafana Labs, one of the things we said was we won't use AI for the sake of it. If there's a simpler technique, we'll use that. And so I think outlier detection that we have is available in Grafana. That is not something you would call AI or ML. How is that actually done? Yes,
I think it kind of fits somewhere between like statistical approach and ML. I mean, the machine learning bit, I guess it's like if you're training any weights, I guess that fits under ML. But yeah, you still.
Yeah. So yeah, outlier detection and anomaly detection and things like this, and change point detection. These kinds of things help you run systems, and we are literally building those into the apps. They show up there. A lot of them are available now. If people use Grafana Cloud, it's just kind of all there, and you can make use of it. And there's techniques like that. So the other thing is, you're right. Like, so outlier detection's a nice one. So for example, you've got all these pods, and one of them or a couple of them start behaving differently to the rest. You want to know about that, And so, yeah, that's an example of one that exists today that does help you, because you aren't necessarily, and you're not training it really on anything. It's sort of compares. I don't know how it works really. That's one DB scan.
It's magic. It's wizardry.
Well, that's why we have this data science team.
I'll add to that, like, just generally, there's this gap, right, between there's the operator that kind of in your head, you kind of know what you want. Or even when we talk about like forecasting and seasonality, the operator knows that, right? Like they know that, for example, okay, in the evenings, my service is calmer because people only use my service during the day. At the weekend, it's like there's more usage or less usage. So they kind of know that, but it's hard to express those things in alerting systems typically. Or it's hard to express them in a way that it always keeps working. Like you can try to do like, multiple if statements essentially. And like, you just keep expanding that. But at some point, your alert is just going to get very noisy. So what we're doing there with machine learning is really about like, can we take a look at, instead of like an operator manually trying to configure this, can we look at the data historically? Can we go back, a month, 6 months, 12 months? And then figure out from the data itself, what are these effects? What are the seasonality effects? What are anomalies that we've seen in the past? And based on that, so based on the historical data, can we set those thresholds properly? Typically, again, like this is like I'm talking specifically in the context of observability here, but even things like classifying stuff, that's how it works, right? You give like a machine learning basically is like, it's all about detecting patterns from historical data or like historical observations. So this could be, again, like, you've got a bunch of different alerts and they all fall into like 4 or 5 different buckets. Like this is a latency alert. This is a error alert. This is something else. And the way that you would like teach a machine learning algorithm like that is like, you just give it a bunch of examples. It's kind of like a math exam, but you basically give it like all of these tests and go like, okay, try to make it like, put everything in the right bucket. And the way that it works is like, it first does a step. You tell it the errors that it made. And then, okay, it goes like, okay, let me take another step. Let me take another step. Let me take another step. That's a very simplified and probably wrong way of explaining gradient descent, but that's kind of like how it works. Like you give it a lot of examples and then you try to minimize the error in a sense.
Is that where weights come in then? As each time it goes around, it's like weighting it slightly one way or another.
Yes. So, I mean, you kind of see this with like big models, especially with big LLM models that are now being like opened up. Like, for example, the Llama models from Meta. Like you'll see this thing where they talk about like 7 billion parameters or 90 billion parameters that talk about the model size. That kind of gives you an idea of like how much of the weights that you can change. In a very simplified form, this is something like, the simplest formula is almost like something you've probably seen in like college, which is like y equals ax plus b. And you're trying to figure out what is a and what is b. And the way that you do it is like you just give it a bunch of examples where 10 equals a times whatever the x is, and then plus b. You get a bunch of examples. And every time it sets an a and a b, like those weights, you can basically then look at the total error that you made, right? You just sum everything up. You see like, oh, okay, I made this big of a mistake. And the big thing is like, then you can go like, okay, should A go up? Should A go down? And same with B. And you just iterate through that. And obviously, because we have computers, we can do that iteration thousands of times. And that's how you do machine learning, folks.
Does it do binary searching when it's looking for those weights? Does it like jump a bit and then hit the middle and divide like that?
There are different algorithms. There are different ways. Like there's even algorithms on how you do that search itself. Oh, right. And especially when you get to like neural nets and large language, like transformer models, these algorithms can make a big impact in terms of like, you can even tweak things like how big of a step can you make in each iteration? Like what is the tolerance? When should you stop? So a bunch of things to tweak.
What's up, friends? I'm here in the breaks with David Shu, founder and CEO of Retool. So, David, Retool has definitely cornered the market on internal tool software development. But zoom out for me. What's the big idea? Why did you start Retool? What is the big idea with internal software?
Yeah, so Retool started at this point 7 years ago. And when we started Retool, the core idea was that internal software is a giant category that no one really thinks about. And what's surprising to most people is that internal software represents something like 50 to 60% of all the code written in the world, which might sound pretty surprising. But if you think about it, most of us in Silicon Valley, we work at software companies, whether it's like an Airbnb, a Google, a Meta. These are all companies that are software companies selling software. And so most engineers in these companies are working on external-facing software. But if you think about most software engineers in the world actually don't work at these software companies. There's not that many of them. There's maybe 10, 20 of them, big ones at least. Most of the companies in the world are actually non-software companies. So if you think about a company like an LVMH, for example, like a Coca-Cola, for example, like a Zara. Zara's not selling any software, but they actually have a lot of software engineers, actually. And all their software engineers, all they do day in and day out is basically build internal software. So that's, I think, one reason we started Retool. The second reason we started Retool is if you look at all this internal software that people are building, it is remarkably similar. So if you take a look at, like a Zara, for example, versus Coca-Cola, two very different companies, obviously. One a clothing company, one a beverage company. But if you actually look at the software they're building internally to go run their operations, it is remarkably similar. It's basically forms, buttons, tables, all these sort of pretty common building blocks, basically, that come together in different ways. But then if you think about, not just the UI, but also what's the logic behind a lot of this stuff, they're pretty much just hitting API endpoints, hitting databases. You care about authentication, you care about authorization. These are sort of a lot of common building blocks, if you will, to internal tools. And so for us, the insight was, wow, internal software is a ginormous category, and it's all so similar, and developers hate building it. And so could we create a sort of higher level framework, if you will, for building all this software? And that would be really cool.
That would be really cool. Okay. So listeners, Retool is built for everyone, built for enterprise, built for scale, built for developers, and that's you. And if you found yourself nodding your head to what David was saying, then check out Retool at retool.com/changelog. It's the fastest way to build internal software. Do yourself a favor, get a demo or start for free today. Again, retool.com/changelog.
I wonder if there's a leak code for data scientists.
There is something called Kaggle. Like Kaggle is essentially, it's a competition. Sometimes like they even give out prizes. prefaces with it, like I haven't been to Kaggle for ages. It's quite useful if you're like just coming into the space because they basically give you like a bunch of data sets and a competition where basically the most accurate model wins. And so you basically make some predictions, and then they have a specific test set that you don't get to see. They run your algorithm on test set, you get a score, and the high score wins. So they've done a lot of like interesting challenges. I remember one of them was around, I think this was like a machine, like a robot in a factory, and like they've got like hundreds of them, and they basically gave you like all the sensor readings. And also they gave you which of the machines failed, and you had to predict when a machine was going to fail based on that data.
That's cool. Is it from a real factory, was it?
That was from like a real, like actual thing. They obviously anonymize it because robots have privacy needs too. But
Right.
Well, they can't set cookies, can they? They can't click the "I'm not a robot" thing, not legally anyway.
Oh man, the EU is going to be pissed.
Yeah, but all the robots are USB-C now, so you know what I mean? Swings and roundabouts.
So are you training your own models for to deliver your product?
yes, I mean, for our product, it's kind of a weird one because we actually provide an algorithm that you apply on your own data. So we provide all of the like infrastructure and the code to actually do it on our end. But basically you tell us, here's a series that I want you to like, predict into the future so that I can do like dynamic alerting on it. And what we do is then for each of those series, we train this model on our end. Right? In our backend, we train a model and then we expose those predictions to you. There are some, this is maybe like, kind of like to bring the conversation back to the system end. There are some like newer things that we're working on. These are still like very experimental, but where we're looking at like, so far all of these things that we talked about are really looking at one series at a time kind of approaches. The other thing that we're trying to do is like looking at like the whole system, like the system as a whole. So the analogy I'll give is like, imagine you have a car, right? And the car has like thousands of sensors, and you can look at each of these sensors individually, but they don't like one sensor on its own is not necessarily going to tell you whether or not the car is working, right? Like, for example, you could have like, the amount of windshield wiper fluid that you still have left. That could be one of the series. That doesn't necessarily correlate to like, your car is working or is usable or not. So one thing that we're trying out is like, okay, can we take all thousands of these sensors? And then on the other end, can we take the state of the car, which is like, it's working or not? And in in system terms, this is kind of like, here are all your metrics. And on the other end, the state of your service, that's your SLO, right? The SLO actually tells you if a user is being impacted. And then can we figure out the relationship between these two so that we can go like, based on historical performance, right? Based on like historically how these metrics and these SLO like the state of the car relate to each other, we can then try to figure out, okay, when windshield wiper is low or high, it doesn't actually have any impact on the car. But one thing we can see is like, oil engine temperature has an impact, and specifically oil engine temperature when the RPM is low, when the car is relatively idle, that is problematic in itself. Now, the cool thing here is like we're not like manually implanting these rules. We're trying to like discover these patterns from the data, from the historical data itself. So that's kind of like where you get to more of the system level, which is obviously a system is not just made out of one particular metric or one particular log or something like that. So it's like typically there's a bunch of metrics involved. There's a bunch of typically, especially with microservices, there's a lot of like different services involved. There's a dependency graph. So could we scan all of this for a particular system and then come back to you, the operator, and go, you should look here. Like this is the first place you should look. And then this is the second place. And this place, you shouldn't even look here because knowing like what we've learned from the historical data, this thing is not impacting. With the current values of the sensor readings, this thing is not impacting your SLO right now.
That sounds amazing, if possible.
That, I know, right? It's. I mean, to me, like, to piggyback on the car analogy, to me, like a useful. So, well, whether it's useful or not, that's going to be sort of a decision a given sort of customer makes, right? But to me, when I think of if I'm on the road, I'm driving, right? I have say I have gas, right, that's going to take me only so far, right? If I, in my head, traditionally today, in my head, I have to say, okay, I can see the mileage that the car's telling me. Hey, based on the amount of gas you have and how fast you're going, this is how many miles you can expect to get out of this thing, right? Now I'm looking at that, and I'm also looking at the navigation, the GPS navigation, and figuring out, okay, well, I'm trying to get to a destination, and it says, hey, this is how many miles you have left, right? So those things aren't connected, right? And even in a car that has integrated, a navigation system and, knows how many miles I have to drive, those things aren't connected, right? So now I, as the human, right, I'm looking at my cluster gauge, I'm looking at the GPS and thinking, okay, I need to probably make a stop, right? If I continue to drive at the current speed, I need to make a stop at the closest gas station. Otherwise, I will not make it to my destination. Now, these are, in a sense, these are analog tools, right? Versus to what I could think of, the next step of that would be for that integration, for some sort of, again, maybe you could do this with if else statements, but, I would like to think that there's a use for again, I'm using the term intelligent here loosely. There's a useful intelligence system that can let me know without me having, maybe I'm got kids in the car, I'm distracted, I haven't made the math in my head yet, but the car can bring, basically that system can bring attention to the fact that, hey, you might want to, stop for gas because I know how far you're going. I know how basically what the mechanics, the car is telling me that you have for distance to travel, right? You might want to take a look at this thing. So to me, that's use of an intelligent, so adding that additional layer that says, hey, I have all the indicators, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what question to ask yet, but I can tell you what you need to pay attention to.
You need to get a Tesla. I'm not making this up. Like Tesla has actually solved this problem. They look at the wind speed, they look at like your current consumption, navigation, and like they give you like, if the car knows that you're not going to make it, it tells you, oh, you should go to the supercharger here.
Yeah, it builds it into your route, doesn't it?
Yeah. So clever. It's like whatever thoughts you have about Elon, it's like the Tesla engineers, they're doing some good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't own an EV. I'm still kind of old school, I guess. But but to me, that was a natural sort of next step, right? So I'm wondering, rather than seeing yet another, product or service sort of sprinkling Gen AI so somebody can ask, natural language questions, like this is the next level, right, of utility, right? And you don't even have to tell me as the customer that you're using AI to do these things, right? Make the product better on the back end for me, right? Basically, just make the system more intelligent, right?
Yeah, and I think this is like a recent anomaly almost, if I can say, because like if you go back like a few years, one of the biggest applications of like actual machine learning, I think, was like in Google Photos, and you didn't even know it was ML. Right? Like in Google Photos, you could search for like red car or beach or something, and it will pull up those pictures. Right. And they didn't even talk about like, oh, this is AI. Right. And it worked. Like the cool thing is like, it's quite magic when it works, and you don't, as the user, you don't even need to know that there is like something like, an algorithm behind it or not. Right. I think it kind of tells you something if we need to like emphasize like, oh, there is AI behind this, as if like the word AI has like adds value to that product. Right?
It's like signaling to each other in the industry that, oh, we've got AI now, like we've beaten you, competitor, right? Like does the end user really care? Does the customer actually care?
I don't think so. Like as long as the solution, like as long as there is their problem getting solved, and how well is their problem getting solved, right? And maybe like I said, in some cases there is actually valuable places where you can use Gen AI in a valuable way. Like I'm thinking even like things like customer support, for example, they like, having like questions where the answer adapts to your question in particular. And like you can like, especially any type of like language interaction. I think the summary example that Matt gave, those kind of things, creative writing, like things that like, very language related that are quite helpful. Coding is another example. Coding is quite a structured language. So it's also like, it's a bit easier to generate code than like general language. And especially like if you use the latest Anthropic model, like the Claude 3.5, it's surprisingly good at like giving you that full baseline of code to start off with. So there are valuable use cases, definitely. But just the fact that you put AI on it probably is like, I don't know, it might at some point it might make people even more skeptical, especially if we like go towards like a more AI winter type of scenario. It might make people more skeptical. Right now, obviously, people are doing it because VC money, right?
Right, trendy, right?
Yeah, but so Johnny, to your thing then. So you know, you're looking at the how much distance you can travel and how far you've got to go. Yes, are you also looking at things that can kind of project forward and kind of give you early warning, not just that, oh, now the system's in a state of disrepair, but actually we're headed that way?
That could be, I guess, like in some, we're doing that in quite simple ways, I would say, for now. So, for example, things like, oh, you're about to run out of disk space, like things where you know that the quantity is limited, like, you know, the amount of disk that you have, or if you have like leaky RAM, we could, like, those are things that are relatively easy to solve.
Could have a third output to your model, that you've got healthy, not healthy, and becoming unhealthy.
Yes.
You know, I feel like, Johnny, we're just like product managers now. Yes, on a call.
No, I mean, it's like I keep struggling with the whole just AI for the sake of AI thing, because I see it everywhere, right? So like I'm really trying to get like to useful things, genuinely useful things, without having to tell me that it's AI and this and that, because these are just signals that I, as a customer, you know, doesn't care about. Right.
The weird thing is, like, those things exist and have existed for the last 10 years. Like, you go to Amazon, you get your recommended items, right? You go, I said, I gave you the Google Photos example. Like, there's like a bunch of these examples. There's like, when you're paying with your bank, there's like a whole fraud detection system that works. Right. You don't even know about it, but that prevents your card from being used in a fraudulent way. There's a lot of these systems that are using general, like, you know, I'm not going to say like traditional, but like, you know, some kind of like machine learning approach that is not based on the whole new generative AI side. And they work really well. And those systems, by the way, are not they're not moving to using like, oh, let's replace that with like a ChatGPT. Because fun fact, ChatGPT doesn't really work that well with numbers. Like, not ChatGPT and it's only ChatGPT, but like this whole transformer architecture doesn't really work quite well with numbers out of the box, at least like not in the way that they're applying it in ChatGPT in Anthropic.
Let's circle back real quick to the use case you mentioned before for the dashboards. And you mentioned that it didn't work quite well. Like, for me as a customer, right, if the patterns, right, of my product, say, you know, I offer widgets, right, that are very, very popular, you know, during the holiday season and not so popular the rest of the year, right? But there might have been, you know, there's a spike here and there. Maybe, you know, my company gets featured on Hacker News and I get, you know, bombarded with traffic, whatever the case may be. But, you know, if I'm a limited staff operator, or perhaps maybe I don't even have an SRE or somebody who really understands observability, but at least they can describe what their business is. When do they usually see spikes, you know, according to previous sales data? Can they provide enough information to you so that you have a better shot at generating, right, the kind of dashboard with the kind of metrics that is actually useful for this particular customer, as opposed to saying, hey, this is the generic dashboard?
Yes. And this is kind of like where you kind of get that mix of like the data and the ML and all of it and the domain expertise, right? And I think like what you're talking about is like somebody, like the customers, they have probably like certainly way more domain expertise about like their business, their systems, right, and like how their world operates. One example I would give of that is like, you know, we have the ability to add like holidays. So for example, you can set like, if you know, for example, beforehand, if you're a store, you can add like, you know, the US holidays, Black Friday to it, because you know that whatever is going to happen on those days is going to be very, very different from all the other days. And if you have historically, like, you know, if you go back a year and you have historically data on like how a Black Friday operates and how that impacts your system, you can then use that to, like, you know, to in your projections forward. Not quite sure how that would work in the generative AI context. I guess like is your question about like, could you use generative AI to basically, instead of me going to like a product and manually setting this up, I just tell the Gen AI like, hey, I'm dealing with this type of problem. This is my domain. This is the thing. And like, go set it up. Mm-hmm. Technically, like, yes, that is possible, but it's not like the Gen AI is basically used as like a concierge, where it kind of goes and uses these products that are purpose built for it, especially things like on the numeric end. Like, you can't really ask like Gen AI, what's wrong with my system? And the Gen AI will magically give you an answer. But a way that you can make that work where it appears as if the Gen AI is solving the problem is you ask that question. The context is like, we know the context of who you are, which team you're in, which service you're part of. We've got the structure where we can link all of the metrics of your service to you, essentially. We then send that to like a separate like numeric analysis tool that is not Gen AI, that's just pure ML, for example. And then the results of that get fed back into the Gen AI tool, like the LLM, and then the LLM gives you the answer. So from the user perspective, it kind of does look like I'm asking a question, I'm getting an answer, but it's under the hood, it's not really the LLM doing the hard work.
Every year, both the number and the scope of data breaches worldwide, it's rising. We've covered it on the podcast before, on many of our podcasts before. And according to the 2022 Annual Data Breach Report by the Identity Theft Resource Center, the number of victims has gone up nearly 41.5% since 2021. Now, it's likely that your data has been breached or will be breached sometime soon, recently, and there are hundreds of commercial databases and people search sites that hold your personal information, including mine too, and the number grows every single year. These databases include personal information, names, aliases, social security number, login credentials, your home address, your various addresses, location history. I mean, all this stuff, online activity, it's just disgusting. And this is all available for purchase by businesses and could fall into the hands of the bad people, the criminals. I know I personally have gotten my information stolen because I get crazy phone calls for court cases and filings and being served at my home. They know my home address, they know my phone number, they know my name, and they act as if they're from my county, right here in the United States, in my county, not my city, but my county. And it sounds legitimate. Now, the good news is you have the right to protect your privacy and request that these data brokers delete the information they hold about you. But the bad news is just that it would take you years to do it manually, just doing it once. And you need to do it again and again and again every few months as these data brokers continue to collect your information and your data and create new records. They just won't stop. They're like a virus, keep spreading and doing. It's just nasty. And this is where Incogni comes in to put an end to this problem, since many data brokers continue to collect your information even after they removed it. They also take care that your data stays off the market by conducting repeated removal requests. This means that whenever a new record pops up on a data broker site, Incogni will automatically take care of it. That's what makes their yearly subscription especially advantageous. They will continue to proactively protect your data as long as you use the service. And the whole process is automated. All it takes is 3 easy steps. Number 1, create an account. Tell them whose personal data they'll be removing. Number 2, grant them the right to work for you. They will contact data brokers on your behalf to request your personal data to be removed. And 3, kick back and watch them work for you. They will handle any objections from data brokers and keep you updated on their progress every step of the way. So maybe you're ready. Maybe you're just done with all this stuff and you're like, yes, give me Incogni. Go to incogni.com. That's incogni.com/GoTime. Make sure you fill out your correct information, as it will help you take back your personal information from these third parties. The only way they can help you is to fill it out correctly. Again, incogni.com/GoTime. That's incogni.com/GoTime.
I have a feature request now, whether it's Grafana or any other again, I am a customer of these tools, right? I run systems, a large part of my work is being an SRE. So from a customer's perspective, right, I want an adaptive dashboard, meaning I open up my dashboard, or maybe I get paged. I go onto the main screen, the home screen, and what I see are the important things to me, right? Basically, what I see is, okay, the system has noticed that this particular service is down, right? Or is not responding fast enough, right? In the chain of microservices that I have to operate, right? Basically, the dashboard is adapting to the things that I've told it are most important to me, right? If I say, hey, this particular service needs to be operating at 99.9% availability, right? The moment that drops, that is something that I need to know, right? It needs to tell me what should I focus on. And I'm not looking for a needle in the haystack, trying to figure out why my website is down, right? Because ultimately that's what I want to know. Why is my website or product or whatever it is down? And then tell me exactly where I need to look.
You're describing the dream. And honestly, this is literally what we're working towards. That is like the ultimate kind of thing that we want to provide. In fact, in some ways, you get bits of that already. But yeah, Johnny, you should just come and like work at Grafana Labs, probably. But at least let's have a proper chat, because as an actual like customer, exactly that sort of insight is great.
We did have an interesting conversation about this, right? Like I was going to say, like it's kind of related to Sift as well. So Sift, if you don't know Sift, what Sift does is like it's another solution that we have where basically we just run every time like you have an alert. You can trigger it, or you can also like trigger it manually, and it's going to run like a few of these like predefined checks. Like it's going to check like, has there been a new deployment? Is there like an increase in your HTTP errors? It's going to check like the error logs that you have for your service and see if those increased. Even like this experimental feature that I talked about with like, the 1,000 sensors and the state of the car, that, for example, internally, at least we have that as part of Sift as well. And basically the whole idea is like every time you have an alert, Sift can run a few of these checks that you would do normally, like manually. It can run these checks already and then just come back to you and say like, hey, I checked this. It was fine. I checked this. I found these things. Here are some error pattern logs. Like you can check those and kind of like give you like a helping hand towards like the solution.
But it's so cool. And literally in Slack, it replies to the alert that gets posted in Slack. It's in the thread. And the log one is my favorite, because this has helped us out a few times where in really unexpected ways. Essentially what it does is it looks at your logs, and it knows from some context in the alert, it has an idea of where to go and look in logs. And it looks at, say, an hour before where it assumes this was okay. And then it looks for anything that's different or anything that's new, whether it's patterns, like it's just an increase in frequency of something, or literally sometimes there's like a new error message. And we had a SSL error once that was kind of affecting lots of people, and we no one could figure out what was going on for a while. But the Sift thing had immediately gone and just said, "Oh, there's this new error that I've just not seen." So it's things like that, like really practical, useful stuff. That's and it just keeps building on.
I was gonna add like a thing there, which is like there's this interesting idea of like do we have like a more dynamic dashboard and like change stuff. We had this conversation where basically, we talked about these tools like Sift. We got like another one, like a Certs Workbench is one, AppOlly. We got all of these like different ways that you can like look at your data. And one thing that like we were talking with like other SREs at Grafana, and one thing that they mentioned is like, well, the first thing I do is like I still go to the dashboard. I still go to my dashboard, like the dashboard that I created or our team has created specifically for our service. Because I know exactly what to look for in that dashboard. And it is specifically made for my service. Every time I go there, because I know it's the same, I know where the things are. So there is this element of familiarity with your own thing. And also it's a dashboard that's specifically made for you and your service. So that's kind of like an interesting, a challenge of like, how do you kind of compete with something like that? That's like, people that have created their own dashboards versus these kind of like more generalist approaches where here is one tool and this one tool is going to adapt to everyone and it's going to work for all of your services. but every time you go there, you don't know what you're going to see. Right. So there is this thing between like being like something that people have purposefully built for their own thing, like for their own service, versus something that's like made for the masses, almost very generic, but tries to like, every time you go there, it tries to personalize that experience.
So here's a counterpoint to that. I've worked in a very large organization where you have a lot of dependencies, right, spread throughout. Each dependency is managed by different teams, right? So while a team has their own sort of dashboard for the services that they run and manage and maintain, right, they tend to have or tended to have sort of this sort of siloed vision, right? Oh, as long as our service is good, right? We might have a little spike here, or we might have some load here, or whatever it is. But as long as our service is, is not airing out, or I'm only gonna worry about my service when it's airing out, right? They sort of tunnel vision on just the things they operate, whereby they are but a piece of a much larger problem. Right. That if only they zoomed out a little bit, they would see that, oh, our thing is being, sort of is taken down by an influx of some other service run by some other team. Right. That really, if you only just took a step back immediately, maybe your, service doesn't need to be the one that sends alerts, but because it's another team that's causing your system to react in an adverse way. And if only they address their issue, then you don't need to get paged, right, to go look at your service, because your service is not the one that's at the root cause of this, right? Maybe just zoom out a little bit to sort of see the bigger picture.
Yes. So there's apps. I mean, actually, I've heard there's also an SLO team building an SLO product in Grafana. And I've heard them talk about this exact thing of having basically dependency tree of SLOs. Because, who actually needs to be, if you have a tree and you just want to find the earliest one, really, don't you?
Right.
And alert that person at least first, because everything else is downstream from that. So, but you should just work at Grafana Labs, Johnny. That mission of like automatic and dynamic dashboards is actually something we're building in these. We have these new Explore apps, which are essentially like, we've got these really powerful databases, Mimir for metrics, Loki for logs, Tempo, PostgreSQL, etc. But you need these query languages to use it. And people that learn these query languages do some really powerful things, and it's really impressive. It's kind of amazing. So if you know these query languages, then you can do these amazing, powerful things. But most developers don't do that because they, they have different. They don't use it every day. They're not using these query languages every day, so they don't really learn it. You sort of do bits of it, and I'm kind of in this camp. So we build these other apps which essentially do the queries for you proactively and just visualize everything, and then you just click to drill into it. And that's the way that we've, and we still have the problem of there's still loads of data. Like the number of metrics that everything's kicking out is phenomenal. When you look at it, it blew my mind when I started at Grafana Labs. Like I've operated systems, but when you see like the scale of some of the amount of data that people have, and then so that's where AI I think can help with or ML whatever to shrink that problem down a bit and focus in. But it's an exciting space, that's for sure, and it's really kind of cool to see all the innovation that's happening around.
Just to quickly recap, basically trying to get teams to not only focus just on their service and just their stuff, because their stuff is part of a bigger pool of stuffs, right? That is perhaps causing the reason for the page, right? So if we only have just teams caring about just their dashboard and nothing else, I think that's a missed opportunity.
Yes, I agree. It's like, I think it's the challenge of that is like, what type, like how do you bring it all together? And like, how do you like map out these dependencies? When do you alert them of something going on in somebody else's world? But super valid question.
Cool. So I think it's time for some unpops. What do you guys think? Some unpopular opinion? Yeah. I hope you brought some.
I actually think you should probably leave.
All right. Who wants to go first? I know y'all brought some.
Yeah, I've got one. Windows on a desktop are easier to use if they're scrambled around randomly rather than neatly ordered. I like the something about like you know where things are, and there's something about you're only focusing on one thing at a time. I'm a sucker for dashboards and screens with loads of stuff on it, but I do like to just have a sort of jumble of windows. Disagree?
I don't think I care enough to disagree.
Just don't care. Cool.
Yeah, I was
just
like, unsure.
Yeah, just don't care. Okay, cool.
I don't care enough about your window management problems, Matt.
Yeah, okay. Let's just, everyone sort of raves about, I don't know, because they added in macOS a new way of new window management in the latest OS where you can drag the window to the side of the screen and it'll
right
sort of snap nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using my own, like, there's been like, tools like Spectacle, which I've used for years. I'm using another one now called Rectangle. Yeah. So I don't know, like I did try the new Mac OS sort of version of it, but for some reason it just didn't feel as natural as what I'm used to. I'll give it another fair shake, but I don't know, like I was trying to get some work done. I'm like, I can't, do my keyboard shortcut. Nothing's working. Screw that. I'm going to go back to what I know for now.
Yeah. You're just going to go back to what you know. That's true. I think that's always true, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But we'll never learn anything new if we always keep doing that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this is good. Gone from not caring to really quite deep insights into the human condition.
About window managers and the human condition.
No one is the same twice when you step in a river. Neither the river nor you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah. It's the same river, though, isn't it?
No, it's a different river. It's a different river.
Well, the water's different, but I think it's the same river.
Well, yeah, like by name, but yeah, it's the river itself is always changing, ever changing. You want to keep going down this road?
I used to say these things when I was like 14 years old because I thought they made me sound deep. But anyway,
what did you say?
These type of like, the river is deep.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, knowing a river's deep or not is quite useful.
Yeah. Especially if you're gonna step into it. Yeah.
Especially if you step in it to prove Johnny's theory wrong, like I am.
We can go down this path of like different things. Like if I was afraid of metal, I wouldn't get on the train.
If you say that again,
if I was afraid of metal, I wouldn't get on the train.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
Is that philosophy? Which philosophy?
There's nothing behind it.
Yeah.
Sounds just some random word, just stringing words together. Like, Yas is imitating AI slop.
Yeah, he's just hallucinating. I do like the idea, though, that I like that thing of you are just completely different atoms at some point, and yet, yeah, you're the same person. And you're right, you're sort of not really the same person. But there was an old British comedy show called Only Fools and Horses, and there was a character on it who had this broom. He says, I've had the same broom for 20 years. And everyone's like, wow, that's amazing. He's like, yeah, I've changed the handle loads of times, but it's the same broom. Oh, and I've changed the head a few times over the years, but this is the same broom. It's obviously swapped out all the bits. But there you go.
Can I add another unpopular? I don't know if it's really unpopular.
Well, we'll find out.
I don't think AI is going to take over anytime soon. Like not even like I'm okay. More unpopular maybe. I don't think we're going to get any type of like real proper AI or like conscious AI Terminator cell. Maybe not in the next 100 years, maybe ever.
No general intelligence.
Nope.
Yeah. LLMs aren't it, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Autocomplete's not going to take over the world, is it? Let's face it.
No, but for people who've never experienced anything like it, it does seem magical, right? So, but the more, as with most things in life, the deeper you look, right, the more aware you become, right? You start seeing through the haze of marketing.
Yeah,
right. It still affects us in maybe indirect ways. Like if you go on Twitter and see all the bots that are now powered by actual LLMs, it's a bit crazy. Like at some point, how much % of the internet is just going to be LLMs? It's not.
Yeah.
Is there really real people on the internet? Is that
good point? We won't know the difference, will we? At some point, we won't know the difference or care.
Right. We'll just train bots, right, on our personalities. Hey, take a look at all my previous tweets.
Yeah.
Right. And now automatically tweet or reply to tweets based on how I would normally do it. And you just set it and forget it and you go about your business.
You could easily make a Johnny bot And they did a Black Mirror episode on this where they did that, and then this guy dies, and then his partner kind of has an AI version of him which you can talk to, and it simulates his voice and stuff. And it's like, that's like would be a big comfort to people, but certainly.
Yeah, you can tweak the settings, the things that you found annoying about your real life partner, you can just turn off in a new one. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Wow. That's amazing. You can't do that in real life.
No longer leaves the toilet seat up. Turn that off. Adjust that bit. Yeah.
Well, it would learn, wouldn't it? If it's an AI, it would sort of just learn better than. Ooh. That's the other danger, is that the bot's better than us. Like, like my wife prefers the bot. Do you know what I mean? Just prefers bot man.
Oh
you come home one day and your bot version of you standing at the door. Can't let you in, Matt. She don't want you no more, Matt.
I thought we were going to find them somewhere else.
That's going to be stronger than you, so you can't do anything about it, really.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. Yeah, we should probably move off of this dystopian line of thinking. Yeah. So I've got a non-unpopular opinion, but more like a joke that I thought was very funny, but also not a joke if you don't want it to be. So
hang on, that is what quite the setup.
Listen. Like truth and funny, not fun. Everything is subjective. Like, it's all about the lens you choose to look at it, through. Everything is personalized these days. So here's the thing, though. But Matt, like when I saw that, I completely thought about you. Right. So I'm glad you're on the show so I can share it. So I wanted to suggest to you that if you rename your toilet, right, from John to Jim, you can tell people literally that I go to the gym every morning.
Oh, that was worth all that setup for sure.
Exactly.
I like that. Yeah.
Oh man,
that's actually it's worth having a friend called Jim who lives nearby for that. That is also worth doing. I don't know if you can. Is there an app where you can sort of search for friends by name? New friends app, discovery app.
I don't know. There's a contacts app on your phone. Maybe
it's just going to be Grindr. I'll just do it on Grindr. Don't worry, I'll do it on Grindr. I'll do it on Grindr, and then I'll just break the news. I'll break the news when I get there. I'm like, sorry, I'm just looking for someone called Jim, so I can do a joke on the podcast.
Oh man, beautiful. So, gents, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about useful implementations of Gen AI and things of that nature. I am on the lookout for those things, and because I don't want to amplify the things that seemingly are useless to the world. So, so thank you for coming, and we'll catch you on the next one. Yes, don't be a stranger.
I'm always a stranger.
Always a stranger. That's his motto. Yeah, mysterious. Yes, that what you want is you want the image to come across like you're mysterious and interesting, not I'm always a stranger.
Next time on Go Time. That's the kind of sounds like one of those like Power Rangers ending scenes. Like next time on the Power Rangers. Next week on the Power Rangers. I can talk about my kidnapping. If that's what you want to hear.
Oh, wow, you sat on that the whole show? Dude. Now we have to bring you back and talk about that. What?
Or we can talk about the other story that involves Post Malone. That's for another day.
What? Dude, you are a treasure trove of just stuff. Yeah, we'd definitely bring you back. Yeah. All right, folks, have a good one on us.
Thank you for listening to Go Time. We appreciate you spending time with us each week. If you haven't yet, check out Changelog News. It's the industry's only weekly newsletter that's also a podcast. One reader calls it so good, he considers it a competitive advantage. Read and listen to the latest issue at changelog.com/news. Thanks once again to our partners at Fly.io, to our Beat Freak, The Goat, Breakmaster Cylinder, and to our longtime sponsors at Sentry. We love Sentry. You might too. Use code CHANGELOG. Save $100 on the team plan. Too easy. That's all for now, but we'll talk to you again next time on Go Time.